Welcome everybody to the first Hump Day Huddle here on the Horns Illustrated Network. I'm Ryan Hopper, a recent graduate of the University of Texas's sports journalism program, and now I'm a news reporter at KIII TV in Corpus Christi, and I'm going to turn it over to the man with the plan, my co-host, Mr. Joseph Duffy.
Yeah, hello, I'm Joseph Duffy, also a recent graduate of the University of Texas, actually in the radio, television, film department, not the journalism department, but I am an aspiring sports broadcaster, just like Ryan Hopper, who's already doing great things in the news world. But I'm currently enrolled at Syracuse University to further my dreams as a sports broadcaster. I cover all things basketball, baseball, football related, and I'm ready to dive in.
And a little bit about us. Joe hails from the DFW area. You can probably tell with that Cowboys flag he's got hidden just out of view in the corner of his screen. I'm originally from Northern Virginia, but I am, you know, this blood runs burnt orange now that I spent 3 years in Austin. I'm still in the state. Always grew up always kind of like in Texas, and now, unfortunately, we have to get out of the positives. And well, I don't know what your take from this game was, Joe, but I'm going to assume, knowing ball like you do, we got to hit the negatives of this recent performance against the UTEP Miners. It's never a good sign that the game was somewhat competitive and the spread was 40 points. And it's another bad sign, and it looks even worse when it's one of your satellite institutions hanging in there with you in UT El Paso. Joe, what were your thoughts on the Horns' 27-10 victory?
Oh boy, where do I even begin? You know, what you can say is though, this defense looking salty. Clearly a top three defense in the country. If you want to argue that, people may say they're number one, but they have just been amazing. Already to start at the year. Pete Kwiatkowski as a guy's moving pretty well. They couldn't really do much. Malachi Nelson and his fellas in the UTEP. But yeah, I mean this defense, they're gonna have to lean on them, I guess, for the next few games as they start to enter conference play in the next 2 weeks. Um, you have another game where you can try to get your offense a little more improved leading into SEC play. But yeah, the offense has just been a disaster so far. I don't think anybody has really called Arch Manning to look the way he has in the first 3 weeks of the season. It's a shame because he's been there for such a long time, and people have had such high expectations for him. And already the question of him possibly being hurt. Don't know about that at all. But what I don't like seeing is Steve Sarkisian snapping at reporters for those who are, dare to ask. And you see the grimacing on the face in slow motion when he tries to throw a ball. I can see both sides. People say, it's a step too far for journalists to ask. But I mean, when you see his throwing motion, it just doesn't look like the Arch Manning that was advertised, and you see where the ball ends up. It's like, we've seen this guy make great passes before, filling in for Quinn Ewers when he was, injured last year, and he played fine. And we're just wondering where is that Arch Manning from last year? I don't think it's necessarily cooked for him at all. But as far as the offense is concerned, this is a disastrous start. It's very disappointing, especially that first half where you saw those boo birds getting, hurled out to Arch Manning. You hate to see that, but the fans are restless, man. You don't like to see that for a team that came in number one in the nation, leading into Columbus, Ohio, number one in the nation, and now they're number eight. You can blame that on the offense, not the defense.
I would concur. I originally did a recap video of this game. Instead, I just said, why not have a hump day huddle with Joe and make this into a podcast and make this into something going forward? But in that recap, I said if there was one word to describe the offense right now, it is dysfunctional. And that is, in this context, a synonym of disaster. It was brutal. And I think really we might as well talk about the first two games as well, because it was more of the same from the offense. And yes, you can say is Arch working with an inferior skill group than Quinn had his last 2 years? I think many people would say yes. Yes, he is. But Joe, that football does not look the same. You talked about the boo birds coming out. I'm concerned about the other birds I've seen these past 3 games, and that is some of these ducks that he has thrown up. I mean,
Uh,
or it's not that it's a hanging duck. Like, Quinn left a few of those over the middle too, as well. It's that if he misses short. And that's very concerning when you're looking at, say, a 12-yard dagger concept against UTEP, coming up against Sam Houston State. You got to be able to hit the X receiver on a 12-yard dagger concept as a college quarterback when he's in acres of space. You have to. And he's missed flat routes. He's checked down when you want to look for a 5-star, highly touted quarterback to push it down the field a little bit when you have they have inferior defensive backs, but he hasn't. And there's more questions than answers, Joe. That's what's troubling.
yeah, for sure. I mean, 10 consecutive incompletions, I believe, in this past Saturday's game. 10. And of course, those boo birds were getting hurled when you see something like that. This is a guy who is royalty in football, comes from royalty, the Manning family. And to see what we have in this, his technically his third year with the Longhorns, just has not been as advertised. You hate to see that. And there are a few people who were saying this could be the case. They weren't very vocal,
Yeah.
vocal people, but some people were saying, pump the brakes. We even seen this guy as the QB1 to start the year. And Quinn Ewers has unfortunately dealt with a lot of criticism in the past as a Longhorn, saying that Art should have been the starter. He could have possibly won the game against Washington in the Sugar Bowl. Why was this guy Quinn Ewers playing him? I think people owe Quinn Ewers an apology possibly for what we've been seeing these first 3 weeks of action for the Texas Longhorns. And I also have to say, a lot of people love to find a scapegoat. They love to go after the play caller. They love to go after the coaches. Some things are just wide open, man. Steve Sarkisian, he does overcomplicate some things, in my opinion, in terms of play design, in terms of situational play call. Sometimes going on a fourth when he doesn't have to. Sometimes being conservative in his play calling, but sometimes like it's on the players. And I think we've been talking about that for the past 5 minutes just in the podcast alone.
Mm.
Arch Manning has to be better. And he has said that in the press conferences. He's played poorly. He wants to be better because there is pressure. It is mounting on him. You can feel it. So there are some people saying the guy may have had the yips. I don't know. When you see some of those ducks that he was throwing that got landed short of the target,
But
and
my
it's not
thing
even
with
being
that is
far.
3 straight games, though. 3 straight games against the Yips. Now, if we're saying the Yips because you effectively started your college career. I know he had action last year. I was there for his big UTSA scramble. I mean, Joe, you remember this? He ran right to me. I messed up the shot. Anyway, I was there. I saw the wheels. It was never a question of if he had wheels, but he has good wheels. He doesn't have great wheels. And if you have good wheels, and even if you have great wheels at this level, you have to make the simple throws. Because, yes, Sarkisian can make it complicated, but also some would tell you once you get the system, the reads become so easy because that's why the Manning family wanted him at Texas. They didn't have any Texas connections. I'm convinced the main reason they wanted him there was because of the prestige of Texas getting you ready for the NFL and Sarkisian being able to get him ready for the NFL. And now he barely looks ready for mid-major opponents. And also, I think the injury component, just to circle back to that briefly, um, that wasn't just any journalist asking that question. I
Hmm.
believe that was our friend Zach Davis, was it not?
Oh yeah,
It was our
Zach
friend
Davis.
Zach Davis. Great guy. I'm not sure if I would have had the guts to ask that question personally, but I don't think you can say it's an unfair question. And and now, do I blame Sark for being mad? Usually with coaches and press conferences, I don't because they're just defending their guys.
Yeah, they got to show they're defending.
I'll even defend. Remember Mike Gundy? I'm a man. I'm 40. I'll even defend Mike Gundy for that, as ridiculous as he looked. But it's just kind of it just kind of sucks that he had to do that to a student journalist. A student journalist, by the way, who is not just covering football and men's basketball, drove 20 something hours to South Carolina for the
Made
SEC
national
women's tournament,
news.
made national news. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That I just wanted to put a bow on that before we moved on from that. I mean, up or down, do you think he's struggling with something? Yes or no?
I feel like it's something slight, but they're just not going to say it right now. I mean, Quinn Ewers, I think the past 2 years, they
Yep.
revealed the end that
That's a great point.
he was dealing with something. I don't know what it is about Texas quarterbacks. Look, the game of football is brutal.
Colt
And,
McCoy, remember Colt?
yeah, the game is brutal, man.
Yeah,
You are a trooper for hanging in there for an entire season. Like most guys are going to be dealing with something.
absolutely.
There is nobody who obviously is going to be 100% to end the year, but as far as having injuries, I get him just trying to defend his guy, stand up for him, and try to decrease the speculation and take pressure off of him. I get that, but it sort of looks like bullying sometimes when you do that stuff. And you see this a lot from coaches where they got to show the disdain for the media in front of everybody. They have to let you know and get that viral clip that gets spread around to put people on notice. And it's like, man, you're not looking as tough as you think you are.
Yeah,
The question was not that crazy. It was not
no,
that
it was
insane.
not.
Brian Kelly did the exact same thing a few days ago. The question that he
Yes.
got asked, people were saying like straight after the win, they win with only scoring 20 points, still had like multiple turnovers. But the guy was still pointing out, their flaws. Like,
Yeah, but it comes
come
with your
on.
job.
Yeah.
In many states in this country, and to use Sark and Brian Kelly as an example, these head football and in some cases head basketball coaches in probably 30 of the 50 states in this country are the highest paid public sector state employee of
Yes.
that state. And I
Yeah.
believe that is true of Sarkeesian for Texas, and that is certainly got to be true for Brian Kelly of Louisiana. So, you know what? It comes with your job. It comes with the territory. It was not like he didn't get up there and ask like, "Damn, Arch, why'd you suck today?" or or, Sark, why'd you call bad plays for Arch? He asked a somewhat reasonable question. So, yeah.
Too much. Too much.
And so I guess moving on, well, hold on. We got to give the defense a little more props because it wasn't just this game. To
Yeah.
start this year, I would say they have been borderline lights out. They kept Texas in that game at the shoe when they had no business being in that game, especially because I think while Arch Manning significantly underdelivered, I would say that Julian Sayin over delivered his billing and is looking like one of the most promising young quarterbacks in the country. And for Texas to get out of there with only 17 up there on the scoreboard for the Buckeyes, I think really says something about their talent and depth.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And look, Julian Sand didn't have the best performance that he had this past week against Ohio, against the Bobcats in that in-state matchup. But yeah, I expect a little bit more scoring for sure in that matchup in week one. It's a shame that, the offense didn't look much better because they were right there, knocking on the door, even amidst a terrible offensive performance that didn't really see any points until the fourth quarter with Parker, Livingston getting that touchdown in the back corner of the end zone. But yeah, a lot of missed reads by Arch Manning in that offense. But like you were saying, this defense has found a way to stay physical. And that's been the biggest issue with Texas defenses in the past eras after Mac Brown. They were just too soft, way
Yep.
too soft.
Oh,
And
Charlie's strong defenses. They weren't strong.
you're seeing them
Yeah.
match up with the best of the best now. Ohio State, yes, that was a loss. It's a shame it was not a win. It should have been a win in the shoe. But, they hold their own. They're not getting gashed on the run like they used to. I do think that the DBs are becoming more of a strength. But yeah, when you have guys like, Anthony Hill and Collin Simmons, they're leading the charge. I mean, these are just two, titans of this defense, two
Future
guys that are
NFL players,
specimens,
dare I
future NFL
say,
players.
future stars,
This is
like
a
all
dream.
pro potential with both of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a dream. um, for this team years ago. They couldn't have imagined such a turnaround. And props to Steve Sarkisian and Chris Del Conte in this new regime, bringing a lot of these in-state recruits, a lot of these big-time in-state recruits in your backyard that you're actually getting. Because years before, it was like, how's Oklahoma taking some of your best
Yep.
players? How are all
Oh
these
yeah,
other
Collin
teams?
Simmons, coming out of Duncanville,
Yeah.
if this was Lincoln Riley's Oklahoma against, let's say Tom Herman's Texas back then, if he was coming out back then, I bet Lincoln Riley or Dabo Sweeney or some other coach would have gotten him to leave the state.
Yeah, a lot of guys. I mean, Ohio State is also great in pounding Texas recruits.
Yep.
So many guys just have been unfortunately slipped through the fingers away from Texas just because of the lack of success, the lack of great coaching. But in this new era of Texas football, where they're pouring a lot more money in, where it's more open, I should say, they're pouring money in with all the donors. This team has no business not competing every single year.
Yep.
So when you see this defense, look forward to seeing, a great defense for not just the rest of this year, but for years to come. I don't know how this impacts Pete Kwiatkowski, because I honestly didn't think he'd return this year after such successful last year. But I wonder how he's going to look eventually and who would be his replacement. Because there's no way he stays.
You
Um,
would think.
you would think, right? I mean,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
has head coach written all over him somewhere, right?
Because then I'm blanking on his name. The next guy would slide up. The guy who's already associate DC, the guy who introduced Texcalibur last year. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. He
The guy they
gave
got from Arizona,
yes,
Johnny
yes,
Nansen.
yes, yes. And
Yeah.
because which also I love Texcalibur, by the way, folks. If you don't know what that is, that's that turnover sword, the prop they have, and they put the football on there. I think that's a great idea. The question I was going to pose to you about this defense, we know they're good, as our friend Kirk Bowles might say in a question, but how good? And I would say that I don't think it is a hot take at all to say on the defense alone, they have 9 wins baked into this schedule, right? You're
I
sitting
mean,
at you're sitting at 2-1 right now, right? Sam Houston, Florida at the Swamp is not looking like the tough game it was. Lagway looked completely out of sorts. Another big recruit out of Texas, by the way, Willis High School, Houston area. Lagway looked completely out of sorts. 5 interceptions at Tiger Stadium. Granted, he'll be in the friendly confines of the Swamp, but I think Texas's defense can pretty much win that game single-handedly. Oklahoma's now a toss-up. Georgia not looking great going to Athens, and then A&M at home. Outside of Georgia, A&M, and the Red River Shootout, this defense is going to win you every game. So Arch, it's hard. Try to take that pressure off your shoulders. You just have to Alex Smith game manage this for the vast majority of this season.
I think it brings back like the age-old question: would you rather have, you know, a struggling offense but an elite defense, or a struggling defense and like an elite offense? Personally,
Mm,
I'm leading the former. And I think,
yes.
having an elite defense, can win you a lot of games with a very mid or average offense, or an underperforming offense, I should say, because, they have the talent here. Is it the roster we saw 2 years ago having, Xavier Worthy and Jonathan Brooks and so many great players that we saw in that offense that honestly should have been the championship? It's a shame they didn't get there.
Yeah, I
Still
would
ended up
agree.
top four in the nation. But yeah, I think having an elite defense can do wonders still in the game of football. It doesn't matter if it's college or the NFL. They can lean on this team for sure. Looking ahead at this schedule, like you were, I think that this team can compete with anybody, regardless of how underperforming this offense has been
Yep.
going into the swamp. Like you were saying, DJ Lagway has not been as advertised, just like Arch. I think Lagway has been one of the bigger disappointments in the college game so far this year. Very surprising how
But
he's played.
my one distinction there, and cards on the table, grew up a Florida Gator fan due to my stepdad, and I have some connections within their NIL apparatus. last year they were very encouraged by how he looked down the stretch.
Exactly.
And when you
Yeah.
compare that to Arch, Arch does not have that encouraging stretch because Lagway's encouraging stretch was beating Ole Miss and knocking them out of the playoff, beating LSU, beating a bad Florida State team, but still Florida State's going to put some talent on the field,
Hmm.
and I think one other ranked or bowl eligible win. They had four big wins down the stretch. Lagway looked fantastic in all four. What does Arch have? UTSA, Mississippi
Mississippi
State,
State.
like the Austin School for the Blind. Like, what does Arch have in comparison to that? That's what I would say. Also, if you go back even to the high school level, Willis is what, 5 or 6A, legit Houston school, playing in Texas. Arch it was, I don't blame him for going to Newman like his uncles did and his father did, but he's playing 2A private school ball in New Orleans. That is such a huge jump.
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but you see some of the old highlights, and he wasn't going against some of the dogs that you've seen in that Jamar Chase and Jefferson were going against, or even some of the Texas high school guys that have emerged recently have gone against. So, I mean, you hate to see that from Archer's perspective that people are slandering him because of that. But when you look at the tape, like it kind of shows why maybe some people may be surprised by how he's playing right now. He hasn't had true QB1 reps consistently
Yep.
until this year. And so, as I was saying, like Florida, looking ahead at the schedule, there is encouragement for that game in the swamp and the rowdy environment, but also Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, and that Georgia
Oh,
Bulldog team. That first
oh,
half was very
yeah,
surprising to me. I did
yeah.
not expect that to be that high scoring,
I
that
didn't
close of
either.
a game. Joey
And that
Aguilar,
throw at
yeah.
the end, Joe,
Oh
that is
man,
one of the best balls I have seen from a college quarterback in some time. Put it right in the bucket in a absolute have to have it. What was it? 4th and 7?
I believe so.
It
Yeah.
was fourth down, had to have it. And Kirby Smart and that Bulldog coaching staff had the confidence in him to call that play right there. And I think that says a lot. And he delivered like that away from home. The Dogs are going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. Really, they never left. They just needed more offensive consistency. They have always been nasty on defense throughout Kirby Smart's tenure. And I mean, Arch will come out of that game. If this offense doesn't improve, Arch will come out of that game like New York Jets Sam Darnold. I was seeing ghosts out there. I mean, like, seriously, they have to sort things out. Because also, Joe, and I want to talk about this with Arch and the offense, sometimes, even against UTEP, you have to take the L on the play and take the check down, throw it away, scramble. Sometimes he's waiting, he's buying time like he could at 2A Isidore Newman and expecting to find someone downfield. That's not how it works at this level.
I got to give it to him because people have been looking forward to seeing an actual mobile quarterback. Quinn Ewers wasn't as gifted with his legs. They say Arch has some tree trunks for legs. Maybe not tree trunks, but he has some pretty nice legs for a guy who's like 6'4". He's also 230, pretty stocky build. So he's encouraged to run when he sees the opportunity. But I don't know what it is about this generation of quarterbacks. I've been saying this for the past 2 weeks because it's blowing my mind. But some guys really just want to run after every single scramble instead of just looking to throw the ball out sometimes. Sometimes just
Yeah.
throw the ball out of bounds and don't risk losing any yardage. Some guys would
Or
rather dive
step
out of
up in the
bounds for a loss
pocket.
of two. Huh?
Step up in the pocket
Yeah,
and be
step up.
willing occasionally to take a hit. You
Yeah, for
have
sure.
to.
That's just the game?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be willing to take that hit. I just don't think we've seen that in these first 3 weeks. Stretching plays that end up going for a loss of 3 yards by you just diving out of bounds instead of just throwing the ball wisely out of bounds for no loss. Of course, no gain. But, Arch Manning, I don't think it's the end for him at all. I feel like we've been slandering him a little bit. but
Not the end.
but it's not
We
the
are
end by
saying
any means.
based on what we've seen, he seems like a great kid. The Mannings are a great family, outstanding character. You rarely ever hear anything bad about the Mannings, but the facts are the facts. He could be named Arch Matthews, and we'd be saying very similar things if he came in with a five-star billing and he's playing quarterback at the University of Texas. Like, I,
Yeah,
I think sometimes people, and I think you'll agree with this, we've talked about this, are unfair to Dak, to use an example, because it comes with the territory of being the quarterback of the Cowboys.
that star does wonders, Ryan Hopper.
It it does, and I despise the Cowboys, but it does.
You want to
It
dive
does.
into this Texas audience why you may not like the Cowboys?
I grew up in Northern Virginia. I am a Washington Commanders fan. So, yes, I don't like the Cowboys. It's not because I grew up here and I'm a hater. I know you've run into those people, Joe, who are like, oh, yeah, I'm from Texas, but I don't like the Cowboys because I'm a hater. I'm not one of those people. I'm just not from here. I grew up in a pro football town. But my college team is the Longhorns. I bleed for an orange. Also, regardless of if he's a Manning or not, Joe, this is a fact. They started against the University of Texas El Paso from arguably the worst conference in the FBS, Conference USA, arguably the worst conference. 0 for 7 on third down. 0
Yeah.
for 7 on third down against UT El Paso. It does not matter who's playing quarterback. That can't happen. And if they start that slow against even one of these middling SEC teams, if we're going to call Florida a middling team, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, they could be in trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, this is gonna sound a little weird, but I thought that we see a more dynamic rush attack as well to start the year. Maybe I'm being too harsh on that because technically they did get, a good amount of yards on the
Yeah.
ground against UTEP. I just expected a little bit more from our starting running backs this year so far. I hate to see CJ Baxter get banged up again, which
Yeah,
stinks.
got to touch on that. As far
Yeah,
as I know, just a pulled hammy, correct?
yeah,
Nothing long
nothing
term.
like season ending.
It just scared me that it was on the first snap or his first rushing attempt. I was like, wanted to see
Uh,
CJ today after, folks, if you remember, had to sit out last season due to I think he did his ACL, right, Joe? Did his
mhm.
ACL last training camp. Yeah. So you like to see him get going when he gets back, the sophomore out of Orlando. Um, they have a good stable of backs back there, though. I do
Plenty,
believe that.
plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Wisner, you got, oh, yeah, Clark. Clark was running hard. I thought he got a lot more touches than he otherwise would have due to the Baxter injury. Um, and I think ultimately they'll be okay because I feel like when you have four new starters on the offensive line, a lot of the chemistry you have to build up is
Has
much
to.
more on passing concepts than running concepts. So you're
Exactly.
going to lean on them to get that run game going and establish it.
And I was just gonna say that like they're getting highlighted a little bit more because the pass game has been so weak. You've seen guys
Yep.
like Ryan Wingo. There's been rumors. Well, I'm not gonna go there, but Ryan Wingo just not having that same connection with Arch Manning, or not really a connection at all of with Arch Manning at all, and that end
Mm,
around that we're seeing in this Sarkisian offense is not really working at all. Wingo has just not been the
yeah.
Wingo that we thought we'd see from that growth of being a freshman last year with Quinn Ewers and Parker Livingston has done well for himself to start this year for sure. But if Arch Manning's gonna have to be the guy in the red zone, I don't know how hopeful I am in this offense to start it off because we saw what he did just against UTEP, being the guy to take it in for himself um, in the red zone. It doesn't matter how you score, I guess, but if that's how we're scoring, for a lot of these drives, then I just don't know what to look forward to for some of these offensive games in the SEC when you're seeing some hard-nosed front sevens. Arch Manning's not gonna be able to run freely, I think, against a Georgia.
No,
against a lot of these other
no.
teams in the SEC. It's gonna be way more difficult to be running free up the gut, up the middle for, a red zone touchdown. Somebody's got to step up in the red zone. I don't know if it's gonna be the tight end. I don't know if it's gonna be Wingo. I don't know if it's gonna be Jarrett Gibson. Who is it gonna be to help punch the team in for six? That's what I'm looking forward to for the rest of these games.
Gibson certainly runs hard. Reminds
Yeah,
me a little bit in the running style of Isaiah Pacheco. He just doesn't look quite as angry at the ground. He's not
he's not
quite as
stomping.
he's not quite as violent on the ground, but he is violent towards those who are trying to tackle him. He is another promising back out of the state of Florida. I guess we look forward now to Sam Houston State. If you could look for one thing, Joe, because my one thing that I need to see a few things, but the one thing that I need to see uh has to do with what you were just talking about. But if you could have one thing come true in this game, Sam Houston State at home, what would it be? Your one thing on your wish list.
Uh, it probably needs to be at the very least just positives on third down, I guess. Um, like you were talking about, 0 for 7 to start um, on third down against UTEP. If they can show they can move the chains, which, I mean, my God, if you can't move the chains against Sam Houston State, just count
Mm,
this team out. This is one of the
mm.
worst teams in football right now. Has been rough for them transitioning so far the past few years
Also
from
in Conference USA, in the mighty Conference USA. Yeah.
transitioning from FCS to FBS ball, finding a way just to stack on positive drives. We've seen them score, but it's not consecutive drives a lot of times for this Longhorns team to start off weeks one to all the way to week three. Can they build on positive drives instead of scoring here and there, maybe getting lucky with the touchdown as the clock ticks away at the end of the first half, like we saw against UTEP? Can they start to actually claw away? Because we know this defense can get stops. We know that they don't really give up points. Can this offense find a way to be positive on third down, limit penalties, and actually convert on third down? That's what I'm looking for.
I that was certainly up there, but my thing on my wish list, other than because I think it'd be too obvious to say amazing game from March. Like, our viewers are gonna want something a little more detailed than that. Um, Arch needs to find who his get out of jail free card is, his security blanket, his check down guy, whatever term that you want to give it. He needs to find that guy, and it pertains to your third down point that you can go to in a big spot, whether
That's a
that
great
is,
point.
like you said, red zone, third down, maybe it's second and short against a better team and you want to try a play action shot play, who is going to be your get out of jail free card? Because for Ewers last year, I would argue it was golden. He'd throw him something down the sidelines. Hey, Matthew, you're a great athlete. Go get it. I think also the previous year, you can say it was Worthy. You can say it was JT Sanders. Who is that going to be in this Texas offense? Is it Livingstone? Is it, I think, my leading candidate, Jack Endries, the tight end transfer from Cal? Um, Arch was able to connect with him once or twice on Saturday on third down. Is it DeAndre Moore, the one returning pass catcher who is on a milk carton this year? 6 catches for 36 yards.
Shocking.
Where's DeAndre Moore been? And hey, maybe that's down to Arch, but can they build that rapport with each other? Who is that go-to guy? Gotta have it guy gonna be?
I mean, my God, Parker Livingston, 8 catches, but 3 touchdowns this year
Yeah.
in 2025. Unreal start. But yeah, DeAndre Moore, I mean, you saw what he did in the SEC championship. Unreal
Yes.
performance. Very
Up
shocking to
close
see
and
how
personal.
quiet. Yeah, very shocking to see how quiet it's been to start the year in 2025. That's a great point. Who is going to be the guy to really, be his safety blanket? Arch Manning, that is. They have a great opportunity to put some points on the board. We'll say that against the Bearcats.
Yeah.
A great opportunity.
Yes.
If
A
they
great
look
opportunity.
this, the Longhorn fan base will explode if this team cannot look somewhat improved. Just any improvement against this offense.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And looking for the line right now. Take a guess, Joe. How much is Texas favored by? Got the Sam Houston State Bearcats coming to town 0-3. ESPN has them at a 1.1% chance to win. What is the line on ESPN bet for this game, Joe? Take a stab at it.
It's got to be at least 38. Let's do 38 and a half.
You were dead close. Opened at 40 and a half, and it has stayed at 40 and a half. You're over under 51 and a half. Do with
Oh
that
my God.
information what you will. We are not sponsored by anyone yet. Gambling apps, if you're out there and you'd like to sponsor us, let us know. Prize Picks, FanDuel, any of y'all. Um, but with that being said, thank you for joining us on the Hump Day Huddle this week. Joe, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, we invite you to return again for more content. Look forward to having more conversations about the Texas Longhorns. It's going to be a long season, so buckle up. No need to hang your head in Arch Manning just yet. Have faith.
Have faith. I would agree with that. Quick score prediction. I will say the offense does begin to figure things out. Texas, Texas 42, Sam Houston State 3.
Oh man, that's something right there. That's a generous field goal. Um, I might have to go Texas 45. I'll give them an extra touchdown. Why not? 45-10. How about that?
There you
45-10.
go. And whoever scores that touchdown for the Bearcats can tell their grandkids, I once scored at DKR. So uh wish the best for them. Thank you for joining us on the Hump Day Huddle. Like and subscribe to the Horns Illustrated YouTube channel, and be sure to check out all the rest of our Horns Illustrated content on the website, hornsillustrated.com. We'll see y'all next week.